Hello, everyone. David here. Welcome back to TAD Talks. So, today I'm going to be talking about something that my perspective can be seen as pretty controversial in the world we live in today. I want to discuss about mental health. Um, is it overrated? How do we use it? What are the several implications of sound mental health as against the opposite of it? Uh, what is trauma? What are the things that negatively impact our mental health? What does the world think of it today? How were things in the past? How did we used to cope with life? I mean, today, if you Google mental health or sound mental health, it will tell you about how it's a psychological, emotional state of being that enables you or that basically informs how you respond to literally everything around you: family, society, life events. Mental health is how you respond to it because it's what informs your decision. Take, for example, I grew up in a largely African background. I, um, I have those beliefs through which I was raised. They inform my decisions, they impact my beliefs. They basically define how I respond to life, how I take social norms, how I accept or not accept belief systems or narratives or ideas. Because yes, I would have my own biases and they inform literally every concept that I believe in or not believe in. However, I also know that growing up, having things that you believe growing up, having cultural basis which based on which you were raised means something. At the same time, because we're growing up in an evolving world, you do learn things. You pick up new ideas, new concept that tells you, oh, that this idea that you held, this belief that you believe in, is probably not the best option. There's probably a better way to do something or treat something. But then when you look at the overall scope of things, I mean, say in geography, they will tell you about climate and weather. Weather is basically what is happening in the now, how, the weather is, I mean, how the environment is, right now. But when they talk about climate, they will tell you about how it varies over time. What are the constants? What are the variables? What are the things that we've known over time to come to be? That's the same thing I want to look at it from. Mental health, say if you look back in the past generation, my generation, the generation before us, there was a way. Yeah, it was not even a thing that was discussed. Nobody talks about, oh, you do something or you respond to in some way, or you do something that is out of touch or is unacceptable to society. People will not link it to mental health or trauma or something that you're dealing with, and you're just responding to that thing because you're dealing with it. Essentially, we just had to, for the most part, soldier on. Whatever it is, the situation we have to deal with, we have to just keep moving. Now, however you want to define it, however you want to look at it, whatever, side of the divide you fall, I think as humans, we have, I don't know how to define it, but there's this consciousness that tells you for every action you take or every inclination you have, that tells you somewhat that this is right or this is wrong. No matter how you want to argue, even people who are bad, considered bad according to the standards of society, will tell you there's some things they would want to do, or they're inclined to do, or they feel they're urged to do. For some reason, they feel the need to hide it because generally society has told you, yeah, these things are not acceptable. They are not things you do. And no, I am no therapist. I'm just saying these things from my own perspective or looking at them from the way I see them. And I want to examine the concept of bad behavior as it relates to mental health. Um, in finance, they will tell you something about motive can be essentially verified, or you can determine what motive is for every action as far as you follow the trail of money. If some actions is motivated by financial gain, then I begin to question it because at that point in time, I see that this thing you're doing, good or bad, is motivated by, just because you want to make money off of it. And that becomes my problem. That's my problem with the whole movement with, oh, this situation or this response or that response is based off of everything now in the world we live in now. I don't know how to explain it. It somehow ties to mental health. You have a child, something is going on with that child. It misbehaves, does something you don't expect children to do. The parent, or back in the day, that child would generally be punished, or something will be done to make the child stop, not do something like that again, not behave in that manner. Most parents, most African parents, the culture where I grew up, they would take the military approach. They will punish you. They will take things from you. You would lose benefits because you behaved in a way that is not acceptable to them by their standards. And however you want to look at it, because growing up as kids, you want those benefits. You tend to want to fall in line because that is what is acceptable. That is what your parents would accept as behavior that keeps you, or that keeps you in that, in the section, or on the right side, where you keep getting benefits from your own parents or from your own family. And truly, it is generally acceptable back then to do those things and set those kids right. They will tell you to nip it in the bud. Oh, your child tells you he's angry with you, or he's angry, or he's doing something, and lashes out, misbehaves, does something wrong. That child knows definitely that what he is doing is not acceptable, but it does it as a form of response to something. It might be because you denied him something, that child something he or she wants. It might be because you didn't give, or you didn't meet those expectations that that child had. And those expectations are what that child is responding to. Back then, it was fine. You denied benefits, you punished that child. All of those things played out. And it was fine for the most part. Now, in the world we live in today, they will tell you, or the concept is, or the idea that's being pushed is, oh, maybe that child is dealing with something. Maybe that action or that behavior is in response to something. Maybe something is wrong somewhere that needs some form of attention, some form of, inner consideration. Maybe it's a mental health issue. Maybe it's trauma. Maybe that child is trying to process something, and their own response to it is to lash out, is to behave in that way. Again, remember I said something earlier. You can determine motive based off of how money flows for the most part. And yes, I would say this up front. Everybody probably is dealing with something, has gone through something that they feel is not fair. It's not fair. They feel, oh, this thing I'm dealing with, oh, this thing I have to go through shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't have to deal with that. Because yes, everybody wants good things. There's nobody, child, adult, anybody in the world that says, oh, I want to suffer, or I want to go through tough times. Everybody wants things easy. We all want to just wake up, not have to do anything but get all the good things in life and just be happy, if that were a thing. But it's not the way life is built. It's not the way things are structured. It's just not how things work. So yes, again, I'm going to go back to, why is it so much so that almost everything in this world, in today's world, is tied to some form of trauma or mental health issue? A child can literally just lash out because they do not get the things that they want. It's not always about them dealing with something. We can accept those two facts and be able to live with it. Not everybody is dealing with something that affects the way they behave. Agree, like I said, that's why I preface this. Mental health defines how you respond to things. But again, life is not built for you to always get your way. There will be times, several times, when you don't get what you want because life is not fair. It just doesn't work that way. You get things, you don't get most of the things you want, but you do get some. Now, when you get some of the things you want, when you get something you want, you're excited, you're happy, you're in a good place. In those times, you don't lash out. When you don't get what you want, however, is that more so determining, or is that more so when you now decide, oh, let me misbehave or do something that is generally not acceptable to society? I won't just target to, oh, maybe it's mental health. Maybe it's dealing with something. You will see adults today will tell you, yes, some childhood trauma that I have is why I'm behaving the way I'm behaving. Maybe I don't trust people. It's probably because I went through these things, sometime in my youth. It is possibly true. But the issue I have is the venom with which these things, this ideology are being pushed, these narratives, where literally, again, everything has to do with some form of mental health. Now, the concept of narrative is such that you hear the same thing over and over again to the point where you want to believe it as fact. And when those things happen, or when those realities come into your face, because you've heard that same thing told to you severally, you open social media, you open Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you play, you see the same narrative being said over and over again, you tend to want to accept it. So when something close to that situation pops up in your life, the thought that comes to your head first is that that might be the cause. The problem with that ideology, with me, or that I know, or that I think about is because it has been pushed so much, we tend to want to attach everything to it. And again, for those selling that idea, pushing that narrative, where did it all start? How did it start? What was the goal of it? Again, you have to agree or accept that. Is it just that there are people in this world who just want people to live better, who just want people to have better mental health? Were we living worse back in the day when there was less noise and less buzz about it? Or are we living better now in the world where everything has to do with mental health or some form of therapy that you require to do better? Some talking through that you need to make you behave better in life and deal with all these issues that you have bottled up inside you. As it is said, is that the issue? Is that the problem? Are we saying that the world we live in now today is far better and is far productive and is, just a better place to live than, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago? Is that the situation? Are these things or these ideologies, these narratives, are they making us better as a people? Or they're just making us, spend money on those things that people want us to spend money on? And I do know this concept. Everybody has their own ideas about it. You would have yours, I would have mine. Everybody owns concept. But we need to have these conversations because they lead to productive movement. We need to move in the right directions. Anybody can say, oh, do this. Say, for example, if you look at women, for example, it's a funny world we live in today, but there's an ideology that has been sold to women as to what they should do, how they should look, how they should portray themselves. So women spend a boatload of time today building themselves up to look like the structure or what society accepts. And that structure that ideology has informed them. This is what the world wants you to look like. This is what is acceptable in the world today. So you see a lot of women who spend a lot of time, energy, money, everything they've got to fit into that space because that's what they've been told. But the reality is, again, what is the goal? What is the motive? How did this thing start? Where does it lead to? What has it achieved so far? Are you better because you are doing those things, or you are worse off because, again, you are now at every point in time trying to fit into what, a narrative, a consciousness that you believe is supposed to be? I welcome suggestions. I welcome, responses. I want to hear your views on these things because I'm not a therapist, like I said. I don't know everything. I just want to share my own perspective as far as these topics go. and see what you think. If you like this kind of content, leave a like, leave a comment. I do check them and I respond to mostly all of them. Subscribe to my channel. Until the next one, I'll see you around.